Melinda, Bloomberg stock market reporter, really helps to set the baseline for us for the conversation we're going to have next with Nathan Dean from Bloomberg Intelligence, because tariffs are in the air today. We don't know exactly how this is going to land with Canada, but Mexico's got the exemption. Canada has a partial exemption, at least with regard to autos. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, talked about it this morning at the Economic Club of New York.
People say, oh, tariffs are a regressive tax. Are they a regressive tax if you then use the income from tariffs to no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, making auto loans tax deductible? Those four policies, which President Trump put forward during the campaign, all accrue to the bottom 50% of wage earners and working Americans.
As we turn to the senior U.S. policy analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence, Nathan Dean, whose phone has been ringing. Clients who have terminal subscriptions want to know what to do next. And boy, Nathan, great to see you again. You were here just yesterday because this keeps changing. You obviously can't make plans. The question is, do you throw it all out? Because this market is back to where we were before the election.
You know, we've been coining this the shock and awe strategy for tariffs. I mean, President Trump did this with his executive orders, and it looks like he's doing this with tariffs as well. He makes a statement. He makes we're going to put tariffs on Canada and Mexico. We're going to go 25%. Well, then we delay it for 30 days. Well, then we're actually going to put it forth. And then now we're going to have an exemption for USMCA goods, like Howard Lutnick was saying today. Mexico is now delayed till April 2nd. So what we're telling our clients is that you have to prepare for these tariffs, but you also have to prepare for the scenario that maybe a day or two later, you get this headline that says that maybe we're going to pare it down a little bit. Yeah. But, there's a lot of uncertainty that's still coming with this. But what we do think is going to happen is April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs are going to come. But then within the days after April 2nd, then you'll see whatever negotiations take place and something that could potentially get into the White House to scale that back.
Well, so I feel like we've asked this question of political strategists, this idea that do we run into a boy who cried wolf scenario eventually where it stops working as a negotiating tactic when everybody sees that you're willing to pull tariffs back and the threat doesn't last very long. And I wonder if it could be true for market participants as well, that they just stop taking him at his word on tariff threats until they actually see it in action. They no longer try to discount them.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, I think there's several people. I mean, look, I've talked to several people in the last week that are taking that view as well. That look, these tariffs are never going to happen. We even have this debate within BI, just whether or not on odds. But you have to prepare for them because there's only one person in this world that decides whether or not these tariffs go forward, and it's President Trump. And we have yet to meet a Trump whisperer that can predict at 100% certainty what is going to happen here. So you have to prepare scenario analysis, and that starts with preparing for these tariffs with the idea that potentially it could come back. Because look, we may do this on April 1st, and we may now have an extension to May 1st. We just don't know, but you still have to prepare.
Well, we're seeing a lot of front running ahead of any potential tariffs taking effect, and I don't want to try to fold you into being an economist here, but are you getting questions about this, the increasing potential, say, for a weak second half, because so much business was done to try to get ahead of the tariffs?
At the tail end of 2024, the number one question I got, whether it was New York, London, Berlin, wherever, was when is the United States going to deal with the deficit? And that question remains today. And the question is,
you said not this year?
Well, I mean, but the question is, you have DOGE, you have tariffs, and you also have the House Republican plans to extend tax reform, which, assuming they use the baseline, could cost somewhere between 4.5 and even potentially higher. Yeah. And so I think traders are looking at this holistically, and they're trying to figure out, okay, when is Washington going to get serious about the deficit? My response always back to the trader is, you tell me when you get worried and we begin to see market moves.
So the vigilantes need to come out.
Well, we just haven't seen anything yet. And Washington is still going to proceed down this path. So, tariffs is a catalyst that's happening right now. You have the debt ceiling coming this summer. That potentially could change the fixed income debate a little bit. And then you have the House Republican tax reform at the end. But at the end of the year, I'm still not 100% confident that the deficit's going to be resolved.
Well, and before we even get to the debt ceiling or budget reconciliation, there's a shutdown looming potentially in just over a week, and no clear sign yet that they have a definitive plan that they know can pass to avert it, Nathan. Where are your odds right now?
So I don't think that definitive plan is going to come until maybe March 13th at 10 p.m.
Excellent.
But what we are telling our clients is we are at a 40% chance of a shutdown, assuming the Republicans push forward a clean CR. I don't think the Democrats are going to be able to stomach a shutdown if the Republicans push forward this clean CR. If the Republicans push forward a plan that codifies DOGE cuts or includes policy writers, then the odds of that shutdown go up to 60%. I just don't think that there's really much in the way that, like, shutdowns are usually caused because both parties go into that debate thinking that their position is the one that's politically advantageous. I'm not exactly sure the Democrats are in that position right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if this gets kicked the can down a month or maybe a little later. I do think there is going to be a long shutdown sometime in the first 2 years of the Trump presidency. I'm just not sure it's going to be March.
That's interesting. I guess encouraging. That's not something the market would probably respond to very well right now. The uncertainty over tariffs, the uncertainty over debt ceiling. Now you can't even keep the lights on. What would be the market reaction?
Well, you have to remember from government shutdowns, from the market perspective, there really isn't any. We put the same note out that says, look, there's really no impact, even for defense contractors.
Psychologically?
Well, that's where the debt ceiling comes into play. I mean, going back to this mom versus dad thing that we've talked about in this program a long time ago, traders want Washington to remember that they want to get things done. Traders in New York want Washington to be able to get things done. And if you have a shutdown that goes a couple of weeks, that's not going to bode well for the debt ceiling crisis because the debt, well, I don't want to call it a crisis, the debt ceiling issue. Because if Republicans pull it out of the reconciliation plans, as we suspect, the debt ceiling is going to require 7 Democrats to go along with it. It's going to have to be a bipartisan affair. I don't think you're going to see a debt ceiling breach. We have an 80% chance that the issue is resolved before that X date. But Washington needs to provide, in the eyes of the traders, a little bit of maturity. And, even though there's no impact from the shutdown, if there is political discord, that potentially could bleed into the fixed income issues this summer.
Well, and I would imagine rating agencies take note as well. If we all recall, while we didn't actually breach the debt ceiling last time, the United States still got downgraded. It's just not seen as creditworthy given the political drama around this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and look, I mean, there's
as creditworthy, I should say. Still creditworthy, maybe just not like entirely full faith and credit.
But I mean, that's an excellent point. There's a lot of questions, and especially we see this, I was talking to our FX chief rates strategist this morning, and we were talking about how are Americans and how are non-Americans across the world viewing the dollar and viewing the euro and the peso and the Canadian dollar. And a lot of this credibility goes into the currency argument. So, I certainly don't want to downplay that we don't think anything's going to happen. Headline risk is headline risk for a reason. But I would just say is that, it's just more angst and anxiety rather than an actual catalyst that we can point to.
We've got a crypto summit at the White House tomorrow. Not just David Sachs, but a number of other CEOs and investors, stakeholders, and I guess the optics that will make good on this administration's pledge to lean into crypto. Last time we spoke was about this idea of a national reserve after the president put forth any number of potential tokens that could be involved here, not just Bitcoin. Will that be reinforced tomorrow?
I think so. I actually don't think you're going to see a lot come from the White House tomorrow. I think it's going to be more driven by the industry participants. And I think they're just going to air a lot of the talking points that we've seen before. One of the biggest questions when it comes to this Bitcoin reserve, is it a Bitcoin reserve or is it a crypto reserve? Is Solana in there? Is XRP in there?
Didn't he answer that though?
Well, I mean, President Trump said that he wants to view it as a currency, market capitalization fund with all these different currencies in there. But that's not exactly what a lot of folks in the crypto world want. They want it to be Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the one that's most decentralized and Bitcoin is the one that's most, available for institutional usage. And so I think you're going to see these talking points coming out tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure the White House is going to offer much, A, because they don't want to correct President Trump if they feel differently, and B, again, there's one person driving this at the moment, and it's President Trump.
Really quickly, before we let you go, Nathan, stablecoin legislation, obviously, in both chambers is moving forward. I believe markups could happen as soon as next week. How quickly do you think that ultimately could get done, if it will?
I think it's probably sometime between May and July.
Okay.
I think, look, we have favorable odds on this, 70%. The problem with the stablecoin language, if you can call it a problem, is that it sometimes gets sucked into this bigger idea of crypto legislation. And if people start trying to boil the ocean as opposed to that one lake, then the stablecoin legislation could get pushed off.
All right, Nathan Dean of Bloomberg Intelligence, thank you so much, as always, for joining us. It's going to be a big day tomorrow, not just for the White House Crypto Summit, but
no doubt.
Also, the little thing called the non-farm payrolls report. It will be Jobs Day after all.
Yes, indeed. And it'll be curious